on this entire business of we are going through the best of times, right, and the greatest of times. Now, that might well be true. But here's again where one of the problems of capitalism comes up, that quite often people mention what has been called here their happiness. Not so much in absolute terms, but also in relative terms to how everyone else does it. And here's where one of the problems of capitalism really comes up. You may see the poor having their income rising substantially, but in capitalism, you'll always have the richest of the rich and the rich becoming richer even faster, and the relative disparity therefore grows, which may not make people happy. I mean, you see it all the time. Somebody may get a 15% or 20% salary hike. They're not happy because they say that other person got a 30% salary hike. Is this going to be an issue?
No, but
it's bound to be an issue.
But why do we say we're living in the best of times? It's because we're sitting at the Fort Aguada. Us, Narayan Mahato, who's lost all his land, whose wife has been shot dead by Maoists over who he has no control. I mean, 219 districts in India under Maoist control, and you say we live in the happiest of times? What is the definition of happiness, therefore? When you talk about livelihood, and when we talk about brand India, and when the Kamal Naths and the Praful Patels and all these other Johnnies go across the world talking about brand India, who are you representing?
Sujit?
And why? No, 1 minute. I'm not for a moment saying that the rich shouldn't become rich. Is there a fundamental right of the government or of the other citizens who have the means to bring about some level of inclusion? I'm not saying financial inclusion alone. Don't look at life from an economist's prism. Look at it from a reality perspective. People, it is a bloody shame that this country has to bribe school children with a midday meal in order to provide them an education. It is a bloody shame if after 63 years, Kapil Sibal has to talk about the right to education. Okay. It's an absolute shame if we are discussing these basic rights and then also tom-tomming our superb growth in the world. I mean, I think it's bizarre.
Sujit. I couldn't disagree with him more. We live, first of all, we live in the best of times. By we, I mean the world. There are 6 billion people, 6.5 billion people in the world, so I just don't mean a poor Indian. That's number one. So first is an aggregate statistics. No matter at what time you go through life, whether in 2120 or in 20 AD, there will be poor people and there will be rich people. There will be people who are in misery and who have been killed, and there will be people who are exploiting the poor. So that's a broad perspective that will there. So to me, it's not that interesting. Giving back to the have-nots. Now, I ask you, why does the world, any country in the world, throughout history, have taxation? We have taxation for redistribution. That is its purpose. All societies, this is not a new idea that you have to give back. Matter of fact, inclusive growth. You know, we call it poor growth, before we call it basic needs, etc. These are all very old ideas. And even the middle class was thought about by Aristotle. Okay? So these are not new ideas. I'm not claiming, and I don't think anybody else is claiming, but I would just want to point out, this is where a perspective, a historical perspective, is necessary. We have taxation because we want to redistribute, especially so in India, where the entire talk is in the name of the poor. I want to go murder somebody, I do it in the name of the poor.
No, or you could do it in the name of God also. You can do it in the name of language. You can do it in the name of religion. You can do it for Marathi
listen,
pride.
I worry about India. When the poor will not be there, what will we do? Because, you know, for us, we are obsessed with. So therefore, let's just look. Okay. All the wastage, and this is where regulatory stuff, the wastage that comes about in the taxation. And, you know, Rajiv Gandhi said this, that 15% of the money for the have-nots only goes to the have-nots. The rest goes to the haves. That's the problem. Okay. It's not that we need to invent something new. We need to make our systems more accountable.
Okay, Alec, one of the points that I really wanted to take up from something which you referred to in Kashmir. You said if we did not have Kashmir, we'd spend all the money elsewhere, this country would have been a much better place. I just want to take you up on that a little bit because A, the money would have probably been wasted in the same manner that we are talking about in some other area. And secondly, I think it's a very interesting point, and at this time in particular, it's very important to understand why you can't just let Kashmir go. I've been there for 10 years, 12 years, spent a lot of time out there. The problem is India is a patchwork. The minute you allow one person because of a certain identity to say, okay, we are seceding from the Indian nation, where is it going to stop? The problem is balkanization. I assure you, Yugoslavia is not better now than it was earlier. The Soviet Union is not necessarily better now than it was earlier. India and Pakistan aren't better now than they would have been without partition. So I think that's a slightly dangerous argument to take.
Now, I just want to say, I didn't mean that therefore, I said just take an example of the money we spent on Kashmir. And I want to come to the main point that I made. I don't know how many of you in the audience, shouldn't we, as intelligent people in certain positions of power, insist that the government of India changes its policy towards accountability and become like the private sector, accountable, and then government servants, if they don't perform, should be sacked. That's the point I've made, and that covers your point, that'll cover your point and your point. Accountability, and it's there. We have it in the private sector. Why can't private sector norms be applied to the government, and why can't a political party be formed to say everyone in India who purchased a buffalo or got a bank loan or anything has paid so much to the government, those people who are swindling you should be sacked. Let's change the system.
Fine, but I just want to take off from the point, can there be such a thing as too much accountability? I mean, accountability actually not the right word to use there, but is there a danger sometimes of a fear psychosis coming up that you hesitate to take, if you're really honest, you hesitate to take a decision because at some point or the other, the CBI will come after you, the CAG will come after you.
I'm just saying,
It's
adopt
happened.
the private sector accountability. I'm not asking you to reinvent a new accountability. Just run it like a goddamn corporate. I mean, run it like that. Have a chief executive.
No,
as I said to Chandrababu Naidu, you're not the chief minister, you're the chief executive because you run it like a company. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with running the government like a company?
Okay, let me quickly get, I think we have time for one more comment.
I have a question, I have an observation to make on this accountability in government, which Mr. Alec Padamsi had mentioned. I am a Kabilan chairman, Tamil Nadu Electricity Regulatory Commission. I was earlier chief secretary in government of Assam. So I have some experience of the functioning of the government. You see, the government, the accountability is really distorted. About 90% of the workforce really goes scot-free. They are the peons, the clerks, etc., who have no role in decision making. At the decision making level, I would say that the accountability is excessive. There is, what we call the 3 C's: the CBI, the CNDAG, and then the another control and auditor general. So the 3 C's really crumple the style of decision making. So much so that, and then there are other public accounts committee, various forums which haul up decision maker. This cramples decision making in government. So I would say either there is excess accountability or there is no accountability for bulk of the government servants. So this is something which needs to be addressed.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for a very enlightening and entertaining session.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for being with us.